Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Armchair Booking Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host. My name is Stunning Steve Barber. Joining me, as always, is my absolutely awesome, incredible, spectacular, throw another adjective on there, co-host, the intellectual rock star himself, delicious Dwaylon Davis.
Hey, everybody.
I'll call you the encyclopedic. There's another adjective. Because other people have actually picked up and they've started referring to you as the walking, talking wrestling encyclopedia too. So,
I can remember tons of wrestling facts, but I can't remember somebody's name when they introduced themselves to me.
did
It's
you brush
like
your teeth? Did you brush your teeth this morning?
looks like I did.
See, that's sometimes I can't remember if I did that. I'm going,
I brushed my teeth and then I went into the dentist and got a tooth pulled.
oh yeah, he did that all today. I forgot about
Hmm.
that.
Yeah,
And yeah, like I am totally with you when someone introduced themselves to me, and like a minute later, I'm going,
it's like,
oh
huh?
crap, what was her name? So, and I don't want to, so that's when you end up calling like people like, hey, buddy.
Exactly. Yeah,
So that's why so many people in the world have the name Buddy
buddy.
or Dude.
Yeah.
So, but we were trying to come up with a topic, and we apologize for not being able to record yesterday. I know we're a day late, but it happens.
Hmm.
But we were trying to come up with a topic, so we're like, we can use the extra day come up with a topic, and then we were still like drawing blanks because there was like nothing going on hardly.
Yeah. Nothing.
Nothing that we could sit there and talk about for an hour or longer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I mean, the only real big thing that happened, which we all knew was coming, was Drew McIntyre finally turned heel.
yeah.
But I mean, that's not a shocker. We knew that was coming. It was just a matter of when they were going to pull the trigger on it.
Oh
So,
well. The other thing happened on SmackDown, and we kind of, sort of called like at least half of this was, um, Asuka has joined Damage Control,
and Santos Escobar turned heel.
and Santos Escobar turned heel. Yes.
Yep. And they played it good because he attacked Ray and, hurt his leg and everything, between had his leg stuck in the steps.
Yep.
And then saw on Twitter this morning that Ray had to have knee surgery. It's going to be out like 6 to 8 weeks. So it was a way to write him off TV,
Oh, so that part's a
build,
shoot.
yeah, build up
Okay.
Escobar, and then Ray comes back in 6 to 8 weeks, and then they have this blood feud because he took Ray out of action, and so that
I
part
apo-
worked.
I apologize for anybody watching on YouTube if it all of a sudden the angle looks different. My webcam that I just bought a few months ago started petering out on me before we were. It was horrible. So now, right now, I'm trying to use the regular laptop camera, which is really not that. It's not that great, but oh, but yeah, I almost texted you because I was actually watching SmackDown on Friday when the Sanchez Escobar, when all that stuff was happening. I'm like,
Hmm.
wow, they're not doing a slow burn at all. I mean, they're just jumping right in it.
Hmm.
And but now we know why.
Yeah. Well, we know why, but at least they laid the groundwork for it all the way back when Austin Theory took Santos Escobar out of the U.S. title tournament.
Mm,
You remember they had the number one contenders tournament.
yes.
Santos Escobar was supposed to wrestle Austin Theory for the title. Theory jumps him. Ray takes his spot, wins the title. So the seeds of dissension were sowed right there. And then plus you got Ray, you know, him and Carlito being buddy buddy, and like Escobar was saying, he was like, it was supposed to be me and you, and then you know you're letting this other guy in to what we have built. So yeah, it wasn't a slow burn like Drew's, but I still feel like it was done well.
It was. Um, Especially since they did have to kind of expedite it a little bit because Ray was
Yeah.
having surgery.
Well, he had I think it's a torn. He had been dealing with a torn meniscus for a couple of months. So he'd been wrestling
Oh
with a
my
torn meniscus
oh my
for a couple of
lord.
months, and it wasn't like a complete tear, but it was torn. And he's wrestling with this, defending the U.S. title with that. And So yeah, he had to have knee surgery this morning.
Traveling with that all the way to Saudi Arabia with a torn
Uh-huh.
meniscus,
Mm-hmm.
which means walking through the airports, which mean all that, and uh, and I hate walking through airports. Can't stand it. So, oh, and if I had a torn meniscus right now, I would just lay in bed and cry.
Oh yeah, I've been like, dude, if we're gonna record, it's gonna have to be from my bed because
Yeah,
I can't do it.
I mean, so those watching on YouTube, then y'all would be going, "Hey, wow, the background looks different." So, whew, and wow. Plus, we were also just talking about how trying to come up with a topic, because Dwaylon and I, we've both already established this over the past 6 months. Neither one of us have actually had like what you call a traditional full-time job.
Right, right.
So Dwaylon's had his food truck, but unfortunately it's gotten cold now, so
Mm-hmm.
I have to put that on hiatus until the
To the
thaw.
spring,
You
yeah.
So and I left my job back in May, and yes, I have been looking for work for because I still love it when people will email or text or call me. Found a job yet? I'm like, have I told you I found a job yet?
Exactly. He's like, don't you think I would have
I
announced it if I found something?
Yes, my first day of work, I would have said something, but no, I
Yeah.
had not found anything yet, not for lack of looking, but at the same time, I've also said it's been kind of a blessing in disguise because with my
Mm-hmm.
wife having her foot surgery, I was having to do everything around the house there for a bit. And I'm still doing all the driving because
Mm-hmm.
she's not cleared to drive yet.
Right.
So that means I'm driving her to her job every morning, picking her up most afternoons. Like today, I didn't pick her up because I had to take the dog to the vet because it was a checkup from 2 weeks ago when I took the dog to the vet because she was limping really bad on one of her legs, and it turned out she had sprained her knee in one of her
Mm.
legs. And I'm gonna tell you right now, veterinary bills are not cheap.
No, no.
Woo, but took that dog 2 weeks ago, and then took her back today. Took our other two dogs last week, and then we're going to be taking them back next week, the end of next week, the day after Thanksgiving, and then running all sorts of other errands and running
Mm-hmm.
my son just started Boy Scouts, running him back and forth to that, and everything else. So for those who may be like, man, you're not working, so you must have all sorts of free time during the day. No,
No.
nope, not at all. So because with my wife working outside the home now, we did a role switch. I mean, it was not planned at the beginning of the year that would happen. Um, but we've kind of done a role switch. So now I'm the one doing all the errand running during the day, and I'm the one getting the dishes washed, and I'm the one getting a lot of stuff cleaned up around the house as much as I can. And I'm still the one who's mowing the lawn
Mm-hmm.
when the grass is growing. And so I'm staying busy. That's why, I also tell people, they're like, well, you're unemployed. No, I'm semi-retired. Get it right. So, because believe me, I'm still doing some stuff. But all that to say, we finally did come up with a topic because, man, it has been a slow. We couldn't even think of anything to do, talk about old school. Because, I mean, it's like,
Yeah.
although I will say next month, I do see a Von Erich episode coming up in our future.
Oh, definitely. Yep.
Because the Iron Claw movie is coming
Mm-hmm.
out. I'm looking forward to watching that. Those who may be too young to understand the Von Erichs, what they meant to wrestling,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely go check that out. I did read something. Chris Von Erich is actually not included in the movie. He
Really?
was, yeah, he was the youngest of,
He was the youngest one. Yeah.
yeah, and he really didn't wrestle that long. He really
Mm-mm.
shouldn't have been wrestling because
Yeah.
he had all sorts of medical issues. His body
Mm-hmm.
was just too fragile to even be thinking about wrestling.
Yeah.
But the Von Erich story, it's a tragic story. I mean, it really is. I mean, that's no joke. I mean, um, and so I'm looking forward to watching that movie. So,
Yep.
but the topic of the day for everybody who has not read the title of the, the actual episode is who should be the next champions. And for this episode, we're going to stick to WWE. We will have a continuation, I guess, if you want to call it, or a sequel or a secondary, whatever. The next one will be talking about, probably AEW, Ring of Honor. They're all basically one company right now, but and then maybe throw a TNA Impact in there as well. But WWE, because I mean they are the biggest company, and well, their titles obviously have the longest lineage right now.
Yep.
Well, ish, because some of them, well, actually, I'm not going to say they created Seth Rollins' title because they already gave Roman too many titles. They're like, look, we need to have another title over here. Hey, Seth, you're a world champion now.
But here's my problem. I don't have a problem with Seth Rollins being the world heavyweight champion. He's been excellent. This is like the best version of Seth Rollins since he was in the Shield. It's like you can tell he's comfortable with what he's doing. He's enjoying himself. He puts on excellent matches anytime he goes out there. My only problem is he's on the Survivor Series team, which means there's no world title match at Survivor Series.
Very true.
Because Roman's not booked for Survivor Series. And the world heavyweight title is not being defended because Seth's going to be in War Games. I don't like that. If there's a world championship event, just like I know there's going to be War Games with Damage Control and whoever the faces that they end up getting, Bianca, Charlotte, probably Shotzi, and whoever else they find to take that last spot. Rumor has it might be Becky Lynch. But
okay.
The only problem with that is she's on Raw, so it's not going to make a whole lot of sense why she's on a SmackDown Survivor Series team.
I was going to say the same thing about Nia Jax. She's also on Raw.
Yeah. Well, she's not in War Games though.
Right. But I'm saying if they need a fourth or actually maybe a fifth person because
but I don't know. But I know that's another one. There's only going to be one women's title match at Survivor Series because Io Sky, who is the WWE Women's Champion, will be in War Games. So her title's not getting defended either.
So
neither are the tag titles.
Because they're involved.
Because Damian Priest and Finn Balor are in War Games, and they're the tag team champions.
All right. Those in WWE do better. Seriously.
Yeah.
All these titles that you had to, you get a title, You're pulling the Oprah Winfrey treatment on your titles, and then you don't defend them.
Look, it's not 1987 where the Horsemen were in War Games, and yes, at the time Flair was the world heavyweight champion, but it was a different time, and Flair was that draw. Flair was part of that draw, so it's like the world champion is going to be in War Games. Let me check this out. It's not the same thing as it was back then. Now it's just like, why is the world champion in War Games instead of defending his title on the pay-per-view?
Oh.
So the only title matches that we're getting on Survivor Series, unless Logan Paul is going to defend the U.S. title, is Gunther and The Miz for the Intercontinental title, and we all know how that's going to go. And then Rhea Ripley and Zoe Stark for the Women's World title.
That ought to be a pretty decent match.
That should be a good match. Yeah. But this is part of the big five, really, because Money in the Bank has become a major pay-per-view. This is part of your big five. This is like, your second oldest pay-per-view. And there's only 2 title matches on it.
It is their second oldest, isn't it?
Uh-huh.
Because I was thinking, all right, wait a minute, because WrestleMania obviously is the oldest one.
Mm-hmm. And
I was like, it was Survivor Series.
Mm-hmm.
And the next, yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
because that had been 87. Because
Hmm.
the next year, the first Rumble,
Yep.
and then
Yep.
SummerSlam.
SummerSlam. Yeah. The Rumble and SummerSlam were both in '88, but yeah, Survivor Series is their second oldest one, and that's the best you can do for your championships is tie them all up in
Mm.
a multi-man cage match.
Oh, and all right. I mean, I know we're going to do actually, what day is Survivor Series? It's 2 days after Thanksgiving.
Hmm.
So I'm quite sure we're not going to record next Thursday because it's Thanksgiving.
Right.
Next Friday, I'm more than likely, I'm pretty about 99% sure I'm going to be at the NWF show in Covington.
Right.
Um, so if we do a prediction show, it'll have to be like next Monday, and maybe if we do an extra show on Wednesday or something
Hmm.
to give our predictions.
Yeah.
But I really, really hope it would actually make more sense for the Judgment Day to win that one because they are a faction together. They weren't just thrown together.
Hmm.
But that's
Yeah.
just me. Um, and you have all those champions participating in it, none of them defending titles.
Yeah. And not only do you have the tag titles and the world heavyweight title, you also have Mr. Money in the Bank
Yep.
involved in the match too. So you don't even get a opportunity of a cash in because
Mm.
there's no title match for him to cash in on unless they just.
Unless he has the referee already right there. But
Mhm.
and Sami Zayn, has his briefcase.
Yeah.
He
Now
just
I
took
don't
off
think
with
it's
it.
ever been done before to where the champion wasn't defending, he was just caught off guard and beaten for the title. Because always every cash in has always been right after the champ has been in
Right.
a match. Um, so that would be interesting to see if he pulled that off in War Games. Because I know I keep saying this, but the clock's ticking
Mm-hmm.
on him cashing in. Because if they wait until the Rumble, then it's not going to be as big of an impact. It's not going to be as big of a deal because everybody's going to be focused on who's winning the Rumble, who's quote unquote punching their ticket to WrestleMania. And then you've got the Elimination Chamber in Australia the next month. And it's like, that's two huge events that are going to overshadow him cashing in Money in the Bank.
Oh, of course, I still think it's funny every time they say they're going to WrestleMania. Well, no crap. Everybody's going to WrestleMania, but now they have a guaranteed world title shot or a title shot. Didn't matter. It didn't
Yeah.
have to be the world title, but
Yeah.
they have a title shot at WrestleMania. Not necessarily the main event either. We've already seen that happen too many times.
Yeah. I think if you win the Rumble, and especially since WrestleMania is split into two nights, if you win the Rumble, you should get a main event match.
Mm-hmm.
So one night could be whoever wins the Women's Royal Rumble, they get the main event slot to challenge for the world title. The other one should be whoever wins the Men's Royal Rumble on the second night uh, will challenge the world champion in the main event. But I think because they quit doing that, they got away from that, and I never agreed with that to where, oh, we win the Rumble, but like they had Alberto Del Rio win that 40-man Royal Rumble, and then he didn't main event WrestleMania. Him and Edge were in the opening match.
That's a travesty. Even no matter what you feel about Del Rio.
Yeah, I mean that's supposed to be a main event match, just like when Undertaker won and challenged Batista for the World Heavyweight title, beat
Oh,
Batista in the best match at that WrestleMania, but they were not the main event. John Cena and Shawn Michaels were. And as much as I'm a Shawn Michaels fan, John Cena and Shawn Michaels, the slot should have been reversed. They should have been in Undertaker and Batista's spot, and Undertaker and Batista should have been the main event.
Because do you honestly think people are going to turn it off? Turn the TV off, walk out because Undertaker and Batista are in the main event? No, that's going to be
No,
a match to watch.
and that's what everybody wanted. And but no, Vince was like, "Oh, we got to put Super Cena out there and have him beat Shawn Michaels," and it's like none of that makes sense.
Nope.
First of all, John Cena beating Shawn Michaels makes no sense. Them being the main event over Undertaker and Batista made no sense.
Well, so which title do you want to start with?
Let's see. We will start with United States title.
Right now, Logan Paul is the current champion.
Yep.
Which just blows my mind to even say Logan Paul is the United States champion.
Yeah.
But what you were saying about Ray's knee, okay, he's going to have to drop the title. And then the thing with Santos Escobar, we all saw he left the brass knuckles right there on the side of the ring.
Yep.
And I mean,
he could have stuck them in his pocket or anything, but he leaves them right there, for Logan Paul to pick up.
He could have handed them to a kid in the front row.
Yeah. Yeah.
That would have been interesting. But
here you go, buddy.
Here you go, kid. Now he may have gotten arrested afterwards because you literally just gave a weapon to a kid.
Yeah.
And that kid went and punched the snack bar guy and got himself some free popcorn. So, but U.S. champion is Logan Paul. Is he even? He's not even scheduled
right now. Right now he's not booked for Survivor Series, and all they've got is this week and next week to build toward it. So
who should beat Logan Paul for the U.S. title? The U.S. title is on SmackDown.
Yep.
Now it doesn't mean necessarily that the person who beats him for the title is also on SmackDown, but
if we're going by the brand split and what championship is what show, then yeah.
Ooh, so you can count out Judgment Day because they're Raw. Let's see. Austin Theory should be in the picture. Grayson Waller, although, well, is he Raw or SmackDown?
Who, Waller?
Yeah,
he's SmackDown.
He's SmackDown. Okay, I thought he was.
Yeah.
Because the whole thing with him and the Miz and Saudi, and then him getting smacked around by the Saudi comedian.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, that's not a good look, guys. Besides that, we stated our piece on what we think about the talk show segments anyway. Get rid of them. Just no more. I like the Miz. Don't get me wrong. I'm probably the minority, and I say I do like the Miz, but I don't want to see the talk show.
No.
You know what? I'm thinking, well, Austin Theory or Grayson Waller, they would also have to turn face unless Logan Paul would have turned face.
And I don't think they're going to do that right now. He's doing too good of a job as the heel. And I will give him props. He has taken that U.S. title everywhere. He has. He was at a UFC event and had the U.S. title with him. And it's like, that's what they need. That's the kind of exposure that, they've for decades, they've always wanted that mainstream exposure. And there's one of your mid-card titles being shown at a UFC event. And I mean, he's taken it everywhere.
Because have you seen the pictures of him with, like, he has it like in the shower and
I saw that. Yeah.
with his girl laying in bed and he's cuddling up to the title. Yep. I'm like, you know what? As much as what I'm not a fan of a celebrity coming in actually holding a title, I'll give it to Logan Paul. I mean, he's not just a celebrity wrestling anymore. No. I mean, he's actually invested.
Yeah. and he said he's not doing boxing anymore because he's going to be a full-time wrestler. So we'll see how that goes. But who do you think should beat him for it?
Well, just looking over, I can't see AJ Styles. Well, AJ Styles, like maybe because I mean it's AJ Styles is always in the world title hunt,
Yeah.
but he's been kind of floating at the very, very top of the mid card,
Hmm.
so it would almost make sense to give him, put the US title on him. Dawkins, no, because they've got the Street Profits thing going on. Because
Yeah.
I see tag titles in their future. At least I better see tag titles in their future. Um, let's see, the Adonis, Ashante the Adonis. No,
No.
I can't. I'm not seeing that one. Not yet. He's not ready yet. Austin Theory, no. Bobby Lashley. Thought about he was actually the first name that popped in my mind.
Mm.
But at the same time, though, they're trying to build up whatever this team. Do they have a team name with him and Street
Nope.
Profits? All right, they
Not
need to
yet.
come. They need to come up with something,
Yeah.
and they need to add one more person because a good faction you need four.
Hmm.
Um, Butch, mm, not feeling it. Cameron Grimes, he's not ready. Carlito, no. Del Toro, Dragon Lee.
Dragon Lee's a possibility.
Dragon Lee's a very good possibility. Elton Prince, not feeling it. Grayson Waller, no. Jimmy Uso, that no, because they already have him. Um, he's already preoccupied with bloodline stuff. Joaquin Wild, not feeling it. Carl Anderson, no. Karrion Cross, I keep forgetting he's even still there.
That is one of the most disappointing things because I mean they built him up to be such a big deal in NXT, and I love the presentation. I like Karrion Cross, who's Killer Cross on the Indies and in TNA. I've watched him in the Indies. I've watched him in TNA. I always liked his character. I always liked his in-ring work. You know, Triple H obviously has watched that because he brought that type of presentation over to NXT. He was the unstoppable psychotic monster. Then, of course, Vince McMahon gets his hands on an NXT call up and ruins it in 2 minutes, having him lose to Jeff Hardy
That was
via a roll up with Jeff Hardy's feet on the ropes.
because they were trying to turn Jeff Hardy heel for some reason.
Yeah, but the
I
thing
didn't get
is,
that.
it's like Karrion Cross was already the heel. He comes to the ring. He's announced as the NXT champion, and then you bury your NXT champion in 2 minutes. It's like you took all of his credibility out the window in 2 minutes. So then he gets released. Then he gets brought back, and I'm like, okay, this is a new start. Not digging the whole hair thing. I thought for his character the shaved head look worked better for his character, but whatever. But then they put him in that feud with Drew McIntyre, and he wins the first match, which is a strap match, which makes no sense
Makes no
because
sense.
that's a feud ender, not a feud starter. And the only reason he won the strap match is because of interference from Scarlett. So they're already making him look. He goes from this killer everywhere else he's been to being unable to win a match without the help of his manager. And then they have they had a cage match which Drew McIntyre won,
You have a
and then that
train.
was it.
Do you have a train coming to your house?
Yeah,
That's the
yeah.
first. That's the very first time we've ever had
Well,
a train.
my bedroom window is open
Oh,
because
okay.
we got the air off right now because it's kind of cool outside, so we're trying to
Gotcha. Save money.
keep that keep
Yeah.
that light bill down a little bit. So,
Yep. Yep. Yep.
but
uh, Jake
but then they
Petway. Remember when Jake Petway was on the show? He actually called it about Karrion Cross. He said he's an entrance and a valet and an exit, and that's it.
hmm
And which is a shame.
because yeah, because that's what they turned him into.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that got him to the dance, they're not allowing him to do. Okay, cut the brooding promos. Yes, he's still allowed to do that. But they're not letting him show off what he can really do in the ring. They're not letting him go out and be this vicious killer. Instead, they're just putting him out there. They're giving him the Bray Wyatt treatment, is what they're doing. He'll go out, he'll go and cut a tremendous promo about what he's going to do to his opponent, and then he'll get to the ring and lose. So then nobody cares what he's saying because they already know he's going to talk a big game and not be able to back it up.
Here's the name that I'll be honest with you. It's right there in front of us the entire time. And it kind of makes sense considering how it led to what we're doing right now. Santos Escobar.
Yeah. But I don't think they're going to strap him yet until that feud with Ray gets done.
True.
I think they're gonna build up him as a heel, which he's a much better heel than he is a face. And then Ray's probably gonna come back, and attack him or whatever, and then that's gonna build toward a grudge match between those two.
Or the other one, LA Knight. That's
LA Knight's my pick. That's who I think should win it because, and I know people will be like, well, that's a huge fall going from a world championship match to a mid card title. Do you know how many Hall of Famers have done that? Have challenged for a world title, lost, then got a mid card title and built themselves back up? Prime example is Steve Austin. Steve Austin got a title match against The Undertaker in 97. Got a title match against Undertaker in 97. Lost that match. It was May of 97 because that was the Big Heart Foundation feud and all that stuff. Lost that match. Ended up challenging Owen later at SummerSlam of that year for the Intercontinental title. Wins the Intercontinental title. Of course, we know he has to give it up because he was injured in that match.
Yep.
But he ends up getting cleared, comes back, wins the Intercontinental title again at Survivor Series 97. And then once he wins it, he gets his revenge on Owen, and then he relinquishes the title because he wants to move on to the world title.
And don't forget somebody like, the Miz, he's held the world title, then he held the Intercontinental title later on, but Hall of Famer Pedro Morales.
Yes.
He was a world champion back in the early to mid 70s for a couple of years. And then the Intercontinental title wasn't even a thing whenever he was a world champion. He won the Intercontinental title closer to the end of the 70s or the beginning of the 80s. I don't remember the exact dates, but Pedro Morales was the first Triple Crown champion.
Yep.
So I mean, yes, it's not a step down. Dusty Rhodes was world champion, and then he was U.S. champion later on because when he won the U.S. title from Lex Luger, they kept saying he's never held the U.S. championship. It's the only title in the history of ever he's never held. Yeah. And of course, he was going to win it because that's how they rolled.
Yeah.
But it is not a step down. I mean, it's still a title, and it's a prestigious title.
Yeah, with a lot of history behind it.
Yes. And people want to see LA Knight with a belt on.
Yeah. And I mean, so for me, he's the perfect pick to beat Logan Paul. They already have a built-in feud going back to Money in the Bank. They were already, kind of having a verbal feud before that event. So there's history there. And they could just build on that, have a championship feud, and when they're ready, have LA Knight win the title.
And you also don't have to turn somebody.
Exactly.
And so there you go. First one. Cool. U.S. title. We think LA Knight should be the first one. And I'll say second to that would probably would be Santos Escobar, but he would have to turn. Somebody would have to turn, which I think Logan Paul would probably turn before See,
Escobar, yeah.
I have a feeling Logan Paul is going to end up turning anyway, just because he's gotten so much respect for his
Oh, I'm
ability.
sure. I think it'll be a natural one though. I think
Yeah,
it'll kind of be how like
LA
LA
Knight
Knight
turned.
was. Yeah.
So um, since we're sticking with talking about the mid card, let's go to the Intercontinental title, because I'm very happy with Gunther holding it still for a while, just to not just break the Honky Tonk Man's record, to shatter it.
Yeah.
That way, there is no
Yeah.
saying, well, because they have the recorded date on this day, but he actually won on no,
Nope.
shatter it.
Yeah, and Gunther's already over 500 days as the Intercontinental Champion. So, yeah, I
Yeah.
have no problem with him holding it for quite a while longer. The only person that I think should beat Gunther whenever they're ready to move him on to the world title is Chad Gable.
You know what?
Chad
I mean,
Gable should
yeah,
be the Intercontinental Champion.
because right
When
now I'm going through the list, and yeah, I
there's nobody on Raw that's not involved in the main event scene that would be interesting enough or deserves that opportunity more than Chad Gable.
because I'm sitting here looking, and even like um Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre, in this case, it would be a step down, but for the character, because he's chasing the world title,
He's
because
chasing the world.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Yeah.
it wouldn't make any sense at all for him to all of a sudden go for the Intercontinental title.
No.
Um, let's see. Looking through all these names, Jinder Mahal still listed. So,
Yeah, he's more of a manager now, though.
yeah, which I mean, I think that's. I mean, I like Jinder. I actually like Jinder Mahal. I do like him as a manager though, because he's one of those. He's devious.
Yeah.
You know. Even though I do remember when it was him and Drew McIntyre, and who else was it in was it Three
He's
Count?
Heath Slater,
Yeah,
3-man band.
the 3-man band, and some of
Yeah.
those things that he was doing. Jinder Mahal was hilarious.
Yeah.
So it's like the one, like they had messed up some kind of promo, and all of a sudden he was like, "Okay, how now, Brown Cow?" And then you saw him do like the imaginary fishing line, and then he kind of reeled
Yeah.
himself out. I'm like, okay, that dude's funny.
Yeah.
So let's see, Gargano, no, not ready yet. Not his character. I'm saying, I think the
Yeah.
person probably is, but
Oh, yeah.
the character's
Yeah.
not
Him.
ready.
Well, the thing is, they've just put him and Tommaso Ciampa back together as DIY, so they're a tag team now.
Okay,
So,
makes sense. So, yeah, because I mean that I always associate the two of them together anyway.
yeah.
So, um, Kofi, no, not feeling it for Kofi. Ricochet, I don't think they will, because for some reason I don't know why they don't.
I don't either. For some reason, I mean, he's been Intercontinental Champion, he's been United States Champion on the main roster, but it's like that's as high as they're ever let him gonna get. He's gonna give you a good highlight reel, but the guy should be wrestling for a world title, and they're never
Yeah.
gonna move him up to the main event scene.
Sammy,
Maybe, but right
maybe,
now he's embroiled in this thing with the Judgment Day.
and he's actually kind of hit that point where he's one of the elite, where he doesn't need a title to be over.
Yep.
People did they Sami Zayn comes out now and the whole place just erupts.
Yeah.
Um, Shinsuke, I can see Shinsuke being a second to Chad Gable, but
Yeah, but they still should have pulled the trigger and had him beat Seth for the world title.
yeah,
There's no reason why Shinsuke Nakamura should not have been a world champion by now on the main roster.
because one of the things about any title holder, but especially a world title holder, is when they hold the belt, if they appear to be unbeatable. Because Shinsuke with the belt, he's
Yeah.
hard to beat, because you have
Yeah.
to beat him.
Yeah. And it's like he's a 2-time NXT champion. There's only been him, Samoa Joe, Finn Balor are the only the only two-time, uh, no, and Tommaso Ciampa, two-time NXT champion. Samoa Joe's actually a three-time NXT champion, but like the IWGP Intercontinental title, that was prestigious enough until Shinsuke Nakamura got his hands on it, and he made that title sometimes on certain shows more important than the IWGP heavyweight title. Shinsuke was that good. And like you said, unbeatable.
Yeah.
He was, it was, it was a huge accomplishment to beat Shinsuke for a title. And now in WWE, I mean, he got three or four shots in a row at AJ Styles. They never pulled the trigger. He's gotten two matches back to back against Seth Rollins for the world heavyweight title, didn't pull the trigger. And it's like, you can't tell me in all this time and in five or six world title matches, Shinsuke couldn't have won one of them. As good as he is,
The only thing I can think, to be honest with you, is Shinsuke's promos. Because you're world champion, you need to have a good promo.
They strapped the great Khali.
And they should never done that either. Because
I mean, true, they never should have. But the great Khali is a former world heavyweight champion. There's been guys. Chris Benoit was a former world heavyweight champion. Chris Benoit was never good at promos.
Yeah, you're right. I mean,
ever.
But with Shinsuke, that's when if somebody has a good mouthpiece like a Paul Heyman, but I'm not saying put Paul Heyman with Shinsuke because for some reason that's just a weird combination. But even though Paul Heyman could manage just about anybody, he really could. But yeah, give him a mouthpiece because Shinsuke's in-ring abilities. Oh yeah, he needs to have a belt.
Here's the thing: they've strapped the Big Show 100 times over the world title. His promos suck.
Well, that's why he kept turning. He also turned face and heel 100 times too.
Yeah.
Him
and Natalya are in a race to see who can turn the most in a career.
Actually, the Big Show, when they let him be himself, when they let him be Paul White, he's another dude. That dude's hilarious.
Oh yeah, he's funny. Yeah.
Yeah. If you ever hear him in interviews, I mean, he is. Yeah. He'll have you in stitches because he's actually talking. Him and Great Khali actually got into a fight, like a real fight backstage. Because they're both jealous. I'm like, who's that big guy over there? I know I'm the only big guy in this company.
Yeah.
So, but I'm, looking at all the titles right now. So we've covered the U.S. title, covered the Intercontinental title. Whew, go with the women's world, the women's title from Raw. I can't keep track of which one's the women's world and which one's the
Rhea has the women's world title.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. My opinion, okay, I have two. Shayna Baszler should have been a world champion on the main roster by now.
A long time ago.
There's no reason why she should not have been a world champion, especially now that Vince McMahon is out of the way, because Vince McMahon said he didn't understand her gimmick. When you booked Brock Lesnar,
it's the same
gimmick.
Thing.
That's the gimmick. You booked Ronda Rousey. That's the gimmick. And Shayna's a million times better professional wrestler than Ronda Rousey ever was or probably ever will be, because Shayna wants to do it.
Ronda was looking for a paycheck. I mean, trying to stay in the spotlight.
She was trying to stay in the spotlight, stay relevant, make a fat paycheck, and get a Brock Lesnar schedule.
And only Brock Lesnar. I mean, not granted, okay, I'm not a fan of that schedule necessarily, but Brock Lesnar, I mean, he actually did, back in 2004 is when he started, or 2003?
2002.
2002. There you go.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he
was in that class with Orton and Batista.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
He was. That which means he was also there with Cena.
Uh-huh. Yeah, Cena was in that class. Yep.
Because Jim Cornette's actually talked about how he threatened to shoot Brock Lesnar. I'm not going to go into reasons why.
Yeah.
But
I remember hearing that story.
Yeah. But I'm like, well, yeah, I think that's it. Might be the only way you'd be able to beat Brock Lesnar,
Yeah.
or the way our friend Kyle, what he said a long time ago when the podcast first started. He said, Brock Lesnar, he said, I don't think I could beat him with a shotgun, a stun gun, and 4 friends. So I'm like, that is the
But
funniest line ever.
yeah,
So,
but if they're not going to give it to Shayna, if they're not going to pull the trigger and make Shayna a world champion, which is a damn shame. But
yeah.
if they're not willing to do that, Zoe Stark. I think
All right.
everything about her presentation just
You think she's ready?
I think yeah, I think she's ready. I don't I don't think she's not gonna win a Survivor Series. It's not time to take it off Rhea yet. Rhea's still, Rhea's still too hot right now. But when the time comes, it would be an excellent way to uh, put over Zoe Stark is if she beats Rhea Ripley, because Rhea Ripley, sorry Becky Lynch, but Rhea Ripley is the biggest star in the women's division in the entire company.
And sorry to all the guys who just absolutely love Becky Lynch. I like watching Becky Lynch in the ring. I mean, I
Yeah.
do think she's great, but I've never, when this whole the man thing that they were throwing on her, I'm like, I don't see it. I mean, she's good, and at the time, yeah, she may have been the top draw for the
See,
women.
I saw
But
it, but the thing is, it's like with every thing like that, like the man with Austin when he was hot. That's only going to last for so long.
mm-hmm,
Somebody else has got to come in and be the next hot property, and it's Rhea Ripley, and she's 27
mm-hmm.
years old, so she's got a long time to be the face of that division.
And she gets it, and
Oh yeah,
you can tell she's a student of the game. You can tell that
yeah,
she's watched and studied and researched, like even the history, because even the whole bit with her and Seth Rollins, when all of a sudden, like he had his arm around her and they looked at each other,
yeah.
because that was a throwback to, was it Shawn Michaels and
Melina,
Melina?
yeah, from Survivor Series, yeah,
Yeah,
and
so they did that callback, and I'm like, oh, that's awesome.
yeah,
No,
but
so,
I, I think if Rhea's going to lose it to Zoe Stark. That's a star. That'd be a star-making moment, just for Zoe Stark to say, "I beat Rhea Ripley," because she's the most dominant performer in the women's division. She's the biggest star in the women's division.
well, and that's the same thing that we were also saying about Shayna Baszler, because Shayna Baszler,
Hmm.
she's another one. She's like Shinsuke. She's
Hmm.
unbeatable. If you put
Yeah,
a title on her,
yeah.
and that may be the one drawback about putting it on somebody like Shayna Baszler, is
Hmm.
because how do you beat her? I mean, who would you have beat her? Because I mean, she looks unbeatable. It's kind of like, well, the reason why, how many titles Andre the Giant held in his career? Like
Hmm.
three, and two of
Yeah.
those were tag titles.
Yep.
And one of those, it wasn't even him who actually, he never took the pinfall, because I think it was Haku who actually took the pinfall when they lost the tag titles.
Yeah, because Andre got caught in the ropes
Right.
when
Um.
they did the rope spot and caught his arms.
Yep.
Yeah, he was caught in the ropes. Haku took Demolition's finisher and got pinned.
He held. I don't remember. It was a tag team championship with Dusty Rhodes back in like the early '80s.
Hmm.
And then they immediately relinquished them,
Hmm.
because of the 30-day rule, which never gets enforced anymore. But
No.
yeah, look at Roman, look at Brock. Um, and then of course, he gave the world title to Ted DiBiase.
Yeah, he's on record to being WWE champion, I think, for 45 seconds.
Yep, I was watching it, and
Yeah,
and at
me
the
too.
time, I didn't realize that the two referees were actually twin brothers until I'm like, man, that is a good trick. How'd they do
Yeah,
that?
how'd they
But
pull that off?
how'd they pull that off?
But
But
yeah, I think it should be Zoe Stark to
Zoe
be
Stark.
the
Okay, so
yeah.
Zoe over Shayna then.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Zoe over Shayna, even though I'm a huge Shayna Baszler fan and I wish they would give her the world title. It's just, to me, it's obvious that they will keep her in the world title picture because she's an excellent wrestler. She's an excellent performer. She's always going to give you a great match. They're just, for whatever reason, they're just not going to make her the champion. They did in NXT twice.
Yeah,
She's one of the longest reigning NXT women's champions ever. the person who ended her last reign as NXT Women's Champion was Rhea Ripley.
There you go. So that's your money match, by the way.
Exactly. There's
Yeah.
history right there.
And well, we can't say Vince anymore. Thankfully, this
Yeah,
is one of the things Vince would ignore his own history. That's the thing,
always.
But the
Yep.
fans
Yeah.
like us,
Yep.
who keep up with not just WWE, but we also keep track of what's going on in the other companies.
Hmm.
Even if we're not able to watch them, we still
Yeah.
keep track of who's hot and who's
Oh yeah.
doing what, because you never know, they could eventually go to another company. Which,
Yeah.
how many people, how many wrestlers, their entire career only wrestled for one company?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, you could probably count it on one hand and have fingers left over.
Exactly.
So it's extremely rare. And I'm not talking like somebody who only wrestled for like a year or two. I'm talking like who made it a career,
Yeah.
like, oh, but, and of course, since we talked about the WWE Women's World Champion, well, of course, now we've got to talk about the Women's Champion, or what, see, that's what I'm saying. I can't keep track of what they're calling on, but Io
Uh,
Sky.
Io Skies is the WWE Women's Championship, even though on the belt it says undisputed champion,
Yeah, I don't
because
understand.
WWE doesn't understand what undisputed means.
Uh,
Uh, they really don't, because Roman is the WWE undisputed Universal Champion, except you're not the only world champion in the company, which makes it very disputed.
exactly.
Io's not the only women's world champion in the company, makes hers very disputed. But anyway, the only logical choice for me to beat Io for the title is Bayley.
I was going to say Bayley turn on them. No, they're going to turn on Bayley. That's
Oh
that's
yeah,
a that's a very obvious one that's going to be
that's
happening.
coming,
Yeah,
because here's the thing: while Bayley thinks she's the leader of Damage Control, Dakota Kai is
is
the
the lead.
leader
Yeah.
of Damage Control. She has put all this together with her, Io, Asuka, and Kyrie. They are going to turn on Bayley and beat the crap out of Bayley. Bayley's going to be a huge face and then chase the title, because for Damage Control, the crown jewel is the women's title.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they're gonna protect, like the Horsemen did with Flair back in the day. Protect the
Mm-hmm.
title was the objective. That's how Damage Control will be with the women's title. And Bayley's going to chase. I see them turning on Bayley, like you said. Bayley's chasing the title. Bayley will eventually win the title, and then Bayley gets her good run as the champion. And I don't know where they go from there, but I think it's got to be Bayley who beats Io for the title. There's nobody else, because Bianca doesn't need it. She's already been women's champion multiple times. Charlotte Flair never needs to touch another women's world title the rest of her career. Shotzi's not ready, and everybody else is in Damage Control.
You know, Dakota Kai,
Mm-hmm.
because I just had to verify, because I was like, wait a minute, she's from New Zealand. The
Mm-hmm.
other three are all three Japanese, like from
Mm-hmm.
Japan, Japanese.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but her real name is Cherie Georgina Crowley. Oh my lord, tell me that's not already. You throw the name Crowley on there.
Uh-huh.
That's like
Yep.
that's okay. That's a wrestling. Come on, come on. You're
Yeah.
always going to be a
Uh-huh.
heel, but come on.
Exactly.
Um, Man, like I said, Dakota Kai, she is the one. She's becoming kind of the mouthpiece for that.
Oh yeah, she's the
Um,
puppet master, because you can tell in interviews, like, she's talking to the rest of them, and then Bayley comes up, and Dakota Kai gets this look like, all right, I got to pretend that I like her. So, and then she turns around and they gas Bayley up like, oh yeah, all of this was what you always wanted for Damage Control, and this was all your idea, and blah 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 blah. And it's like, yeah, just lull her into
hmm.
that false sense of security so they can beat the crap out of her and turn her face.
You know what? It kind of reminds me of. The Rock and Ron Simmons in the Nation of Domination.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Except for,
Because
of course, The Rock was the one booted out.
Yeah.
But yeah, that one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Bailey. They boot Bailey out. It's going to be hard for her to turn face. I don't think she's going to go back to Hugger.
No, but because I
but
think she can. I think what she's doing now, she can pull that off as a face.
yeah, and I think people. I mean, because when she was champion back then, I mean, people liked her. Now she wasn't like a strong champion. I never thought of her as because of the character. But
that's why I was so glad when she turned heel, because the Bailey character from NXT, when it came to the main roster, that's got a ceiling on it. That's only going to work for so long.
Now, if she does come out with the wacky waving arm inflatable tube man again, wacky waving arm inflatable tube man, that thing.
Yeah.
I just for nostalgia purposes, like one time, but even though she took a pickaxe to the one she had before,
yeah.
So yeah, she's gonna make sure them things are dead.
Yeah, but I think it's got to be Bailey.
Second choice. I don't think they're going to give it back to Bianca anytime soon. Even though I like Bianca as champion, but for some reason, for her, the chase is like always intriguing.
Yeah.
Like you said, Charlotte, stay away.
And I don't think Shotzi's ready for that yet.
Shotzi's not ready. Zelina Vega, that'd be a hard one, to be honest with you.
Well, because they haven't built her up enough. They're not giving her enough time to really show what she can do in the ring. She's mainly just like
part of the LWO.
Yeah, part of the LWO.
Which
she
escorts
them to the ring.
I really hope they change the name of the LWO now. That Ray is, have Santos Escobar basically take over, but they changed the name back to the whatever it was.
Oh yeah, Legado El Fantasma. Yeah.
Yes, Legado El Fantasma. Maybe the reason why they changed it because people have a hard time trying to pronounce Legado El Fantasma. So, but keep that. I mean, that's another faction that honestly should all kind of have a War Games match. Another one, Survivor Series. I'm just throwing it out there. Anybody in WWE who's listening, or anybody who's listening or watching who actually knows people in WWE, and we know you're out there. We know you watch us. We know you listen to us. Tell them that's what we need.
Yeah.
But Tamina's still listed on the roster.
Yeah, but
that's just a side note.
They gave Tamina her one shot in the sun when they had her win the women's tag titles with Natalya.
Yep.
That's all they're ever going to do. That's as close to the sun as Tamina's ever going to get.
B-Fab, don't see it.
No. She's way too green for that. She's still not. She's a long way from that.
Her real name is Brianna Brandy. That's another. Let people use their real names if they're already. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
Call her Double B. That's what I got to do. Actually, you know what? B-Fab kind of. B-Fab doesn't really sound like a wrestling name.
Yeah, it sounds like a rap name.
I was going to say it sounds like a rap name. Even though I just now realized that Ice Spice is a rapper because she's on all those Dunkin' commercials.
Jesus, oh Lord have mercy, she's terrible. She's just
first of all, I was like, all right, Vanilla Ice and the Spice Girls. All of a sudden, you have Ice Spice.
Ice Spice, yeah.
I'm like, who? I was like, never mind. She's got a drink. That's all I know.
It won't matter. In 10 years, nobody will remember who she was.
Oh, all right. Since we're talking about the women's championships, women's tag titles.
Okay, I'm going to be really ugly here. No disrespect to the women that are holding it. No disrespect to any of the women that are in this company. But it does not matter because they're never going to put any true focus and effort into the women's tag team titles.
Can you name who the champions are right now? Because I honestly had to look because, like you said, they do not put any kind of focus on them whatsoever.
It's Chelsea Green, Piper Niven. and it was
I'm
Chelsea Green and Sonya Deville. Sonya Deville tore her ACL at a house show
ooh,
and had to have surgery. So instead of having a tournament or something and stripping Chelsea Green of her title, which they generally do if a tag partner gets injured, they just had Piper Niven come in, take one of the tag titles, and say, "I'm your partner," and that's how Piper Niven became half of the women's tag team champions.
and somebody said Dewdrop, and she said no, no more with that stupid
Yeah,
name.
yeah, but
Um, but if I had to
I
choose
don't.
somebody, I'll say Damage Control on that one. Honestly,
Yeah,
it makes
if
sense.
yeah, if you got to pick somebody, yeah, pick two people from Damage Control, let them get stronger, have the women's tag titles, one of the women's world titles. Yeah, but I just don't see WWE ever putting any focus. Because every time they have women's tag champions, somebody gets injured.
Have definitely Damage Control, but aside from Io Sky, who's the women's champion,
Hmm.
undisputed champion, the disputed undisputed,
Hmm.
have the other three, in mainly Dakota Kai, Asuka, and oh daggone it,
Kyrie, Kyrie
Kairi
Sane.
Sane, yeah, the Japanese
Yeah.
pirate, the
Hmm.
pirate lady with the elbow drop, which is really effective. But man, I'm afraid she's just going to end up like not being able to get up at one of these times because of the way she lands.
Because the thing is, Asuka and Kyrie Sane have been the women's tag team champions before, twice in WWE. They've
Freebird
also
rule.
been, yep, they've also been women's tag team
Yep.
champions in Stardom in Japan.
Have them and Dakota Kai in their Freebird rule.
Hmm.
So then it would actually get more visibility for the women's tag team titles.
Yeah.
Um, and our buddies over at Finisher Wrestling, they just had a discussion about the women's world tag team titles, and I'd say, right, do they have enough for an actual tag team division right now? I'm looking at all the names. They have a large enough women's roster to actually have a tag team, a real true tag team division. They're just not taking advantage of it.
Yeah. They're just not taking advantage of it because they're trying to cram everybody into each show's singles world title picture when everybody can't be feuding for the title at the same time.
Right.
So put focus on your tag champions, put focus on your titles, and build those up to where people want to see them defended. People want to make them feel important because that's
Mm-hmm.
the problem. They don't make them feel important.
Oh, so speaking of tag team titles, right now, unlike the world title where they just created another one out of thin air, we only
Hmm.
have one tag team champion, the undisputed tag team champions. And crap, this is tells me something. I'm going that senile that I've never forgot who the tag team champions are right now. Judgment
uh,
Day.
yeah, Damian Priest and Finn Balor. Um, my first thing, can we get new belts? Because I'm tired
Yes.
of looking at those. And can we they just need new belts. I was going to say, can we split them? But they don't have enough teams to sustain two tag team divisions. But they need new belts.
Need new belts.
You want them to be undisputed tag team champions? Get them new belts that show that, not just carrying around the other two belts. And who can beat them for the tag titles? I'm going to say DIY, Champa and Gargano,
Okay.
because then Champa and Gargano can feud with Imperium over the tag titles because Imperium is an excellent tag team.
They are.
They're just not getting the opportunity to show it because right now they're just being used as cannon fodder for whoever Gunther's feuding with. When in actuality they are an excellent tag team and they could have a great series of matches with Ciampa and Gargano.
And that'd be interesting to have the Intercontinental Champion along with the tag team champions,
Mm-hmm.
in a faction.
Yeah.
That would be almost be equivalent of the Four Horsemen, where they had the U.S. title and
Mm-hmm.
the tag titles and the world title. At one point, I think they had like the National Heavyweight Championship, the TV title. They had like all of them because everybody was like holding more than one title except for Flair.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Flair was the world champion. Tully had the national heavyweight title and the United States heavyweight title. Arn and Ole were the national tag team champions, and Arn was the world television champion.
yep. So they could actually kind of start that, the belt collectors.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the one thing about the tag team titles is it could actually that one's actually one that does cross brands.
Yeah.
What should, even though you only really seeing it on Raw right now.
Yeah.
So from, well, like you said, Raw, Tommaso Ciampa, Johnny Gargano.
Mm-hmm.
From SmackDown, Street
I mean,
Profits.
I was going to say the only legit team they have on SmackDown is the Street Profits, but the Street Profits have already done that. They've won both titles,
but they were faces. That's the thing.
That's true. But the thing is, WWE still doesn't like that heel versus heel thing, and Judgment Day is definitely heels.
And listen to Bruce Pritchard actually talk about it, before. He's actually said it because the fans don't know who to cheer for.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can't sustain it for very long.
Right.
And it's either that or the Brawling Brutes, without Sheamus.
I say give them to the Brutes if you're going to pick a team that could use that type of exposure, because especially with Sheamus out, they need to do something with Ridge Holland and Pete Dunne. Not calling him Butch, it's Pete Dunne.
Because Anderson and Gallows, Gallows is hurt anyway.
Gallows is hurt, and even so, Anderson and Gallows, they're at the end of the career now.
Yeah, they brought them back, and it's like, 6 months later, I'm going, I forgot they're even here.
Well, yeah, because they came back. They knew what they were doing. They they made a name for themselves all over the world, especially in Japan. They come to WWE. They win a couple of tag titles. They left. They went back to Japan. They went to Impact, won those tag titles. Got eyes on them again, got WWE interested again. So they got a big money contract to come back to WWE. I mean, you can't blame them. If you're toward the end of your career, make your money while you can.
And my wife's cousin actually works with Carl Anderson, also known as Chad Allegra. She works with like his sister-in-law. But yeah, she's actually met him a couple of times.
Chad, too bad.
Yeah. And I told her, and when she actually sent me a picture, of him like they were at a beach, like they had a company picnic type thing or something, and they were at a beach, and she actually met him. She sent me a picture of him and her, and I'm just like, I hate you so much. So, but yeah, so now for the big titles, and I'll start with Seth's first.
So for me, there's only one choice.
Shinsuke?
Heel Drew McIntyre. Because this is what the whole story has been leading to, is Drew's tired of getting screwed over.
Mm-hmm.
He's explained why he's bitter, and people think he needs to just get over it. He's finally turned heel. So I need psychopath Drew McIntyre should be the one to beat Seth Rollins for the world heavyweight title. They're not going to give it to Shinsuke. They've already given him 2 shots at it, and they didn't pull the trigger on it. They're not going to put Cody against Seth. One, because in real life, they don't really like each other very much.
Really?
They're professional enough to work together.
Right.
But they don't really care for each other very much.
Huh. I did not know that.
Plus, that's not Cody's, that's not finishing Cody's story. They're not going to give it to Finn. The only way it works is, but the only hang up is, when is the Judgment Day going to turn on Damian Priest? Because it's coming.
It's
We've
coming.
seen we've seen it coming for months, especially after on Raw, where he said he was the leader of Judgment Day. But backstage, he was like, "I got hot. I said what I said, but I didn't mean it." Yeah, you meant it. Rhea just called you on it. But they've got to turn him face. Here's how it should work. It needs to be Drew that beats Seth. Damian Priest gets kicked. Judgment Day turns on Damian Priest. Damian Priest cashes in on Drew and wins the title.
And that puts Drew back to still
And that
chasing
puts,
it and still bitter.
exactly, which feeds more and more into the psychotic heel character for Drew McIntyre.
Just make sure he looks psychotic and not like he's just whining.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's got to be. There's a fine line between, excuse my language for a minute. There's a fine line between bitter and bitching.
Mm-hmm.
There's a
Yeah.
very fine line. And a lot of times with WWE and their heels, they tend to have them do the latter
Mm-hmm.
instead of the former. So as long as they could keep him just a bitter heel who has legitimate reasons to be bitter, then I'm good with it.
And that's the thing. I mean, right now, he does have a legitimate reason
Yeah,
because, yeah, he won the world title over Brock Lesnar. He dominated Brock Lesnar in that match in
in
front
front of
of
nobody.
nobody. You know,
Yeah,
just the crew running the cameras, and that was it.
yeah. He beat, when he lost it to Randy Orton and then turned around and beat Orton to get it back. He won it back in front of monitors because it was the Thunderdome era. There was still no fans in attendance. So he's got a legitimate beef. All these other guys have gotten these world title runs and got the fans behind them and cheering for them. And, you know, he's either winning in front of in a empty, you know, empty arena or to video screens.
I was about to say because we had more people watching the fights in high school than what they had for his world title win.
Oh yeah,
You know,
yep,
so and I'm talking those fights that just broke out in the hallway at the water
mm-hmm.
fountain.
Yeah,
And so, um, but yeah, I mean, to me, it does make sense. Drew over Seth, and then Seth actually
mm-hmm.
needs to go get his back surgery, whatever it is he's doing, because that's a legit thing.
Yeah, yeah. He needs to go take time off, get whatever, you know, medical treatment he needs to get for that. But it would be a great way, and it would be a great way to write him off if Seth is needing to take time off for that. Have Drew just destroy him and take the title to
Which he could do it.
where it's, they rarely do this, but have it to where it's a referee stoppage, to where the referee is like, he can't take anymore. I'm calling the match. You win. And it would work perfect because Drew could always brag and been like, I beat you so bad that the referee had to stop me from ending your career. I took your title and I almost ended your career.
Yeah, and that's how you build a good feud.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Because then you got Seth take his time off. Seth comes back, then he's chasing Drew. If Drew still got the title, he's chasing Drew for the title. You know, to try to get that back and get his revenge. It'd be a great story if they just go
if
ahead
they
and do it.
run with it, but like our friend Ted the Hillbilly Hill had on his last episode, which is available both in audio and video on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
If Drew was still in WWE,
That's true
that's the
because Drew
thing.
McIntyre has not signed a new contract.
They will not put a title on him if he does not have a contract.
That's true. So I don't know how that's going to go. But the last several reports that I read was that he's on a handshake deal. He has not signed a new contract.
And wouldn't that be something? Drew McIntyre all of a sudden showed up in TNA with WWE world title belt.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, And then some people at Endeavor will be like, all right, somebody's heads are going to be rolling right now.
Yeah, it's
You
like,
know,
why is he not signed, and why is our world title on TNA television?
yep, which would give TNA more exposure.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yep.
know, so last and definitely not least, the 18 titles that Roman holds right now. The undisputed universal WWE,
Yeah.
whatever,
The
all the things that Paul Heyman says before the beginning of every match.
the other big gold belt. Um, there's only one choice. This is just my opinion, but there's only one choice. It has to be Cody. Because if they
Yep.
don't pull the trigger on that, Cody still has all the momentum that he's had since he came back. He still has that, even after the injury and the Hell in a Cell match and all the time off he had to take, not winning at WrestleMania. He still is super over with the fans. But if he loses a second WrestleMania main event in a row, fans are going to quit caring because they're going to be like, dude keeps talking about finishing this story. Well, he ain't been able to finish it yet, so I'm going to move on to somebody else. It has to be Cody. Cody has to beat Roman for the title. I can't think of anybody else who is at that level that can take over because, like him or not, like the schedule or not, like, the limited title defenses or not, Roman has made his matches special attractions. They are must see because they are so infrequent. Whenever Roman Reigns is booked on a card, I know I'm tuning in because it's Roman. I want to see what's going to happen. Um, but he can't sustain that forever. And people tend to forget Roman Reigns has been battling leukemia majority of his life.
Mm-hmm.
He came back, he went into remission, COVID happened, he took himself out and went home
Which
to
nobody blamed him. They're like, yeah, you
exactly
know
to
what? You have to watch out for
yeah,
your health.
yeah, he to protect himself and his family. Here's the thing, no one knows when it could come back. Maybe the lighter schedule is to not put so much strain on his body because of him being in remission for leukemia. Maybe that's why he's got the limited schedule. Maybe it's just because he's earned it. He's gone through he went through years of crap booking, being pushed as the baby face, getting booed in every arena he walked into. He's earned an easier schedule. But eventually he's gonna have to lose the title. And it's gotta be to Cody.
But so they got to put Cody back on SmackDown then. Even though the title was supposed to, anyway.
Unless
Um,
they unless he wins the Rumble. And here's the thing: if Cody wins the Rumble again,
then
and they have the thing like they used to, where the winner of the Rumble gets to pick
yep.
which title he wants to do. That's their loophole to get him back to Roman.
And I say have R-Truth just show up with the 24/7 title just because.
Just randomly
Just randomly. He just
have
shows
him
up,
think, yeah, have him think he's in Money in the Bank, pull a ladder out, climb it, and
climb it.
there's no briefcase, and he's like, "What's happening?"
What's happening, y'all? Um, if they don't if they don't put R-Truth in the Hall of Fame,
Yeah, if they
something's
don't,
wrong.
then yeah,
Um, but yeah, and we're not even going to discuss the NXT titles because NXT is a developmental territory. I mean, it's a
yeah.
developmental brand. It's for training. I
And
can't.
people move in and out a lot at NXT, especially here lately. They've got
Mm-hmm.
main roster people go to NXT, give them a new, lease on life, so to speak. Baron Corbin's been doing great in NXT since he's been there. You got NXT people getting called up to the main roster. You've got their next level show where some of the NXT roster wrestles over there. So it's too much in flux to really be able to narrow it down to who would win what title.
So we covered all the WWE titles. In the next few weeks, we'll cover the AEW, Ring of Honor, TNA Impact, and possibly some other ones if
Yeah.
we can.
Yeah.
Like I said, I mean, good discussion. I like it. I do want to say hello to all the ones we have not talked about, all the other podcasts we haven't talked about, kind of like BC Hunter at Wrestling with Truth, because he's been putting out some pretty stellar shows and he's back into it again. He had a layoff for a little bit, he was out for like a month and came back strong, so definitely go check him out. Go check out Ted, go check out Finisher Wrestling, and also check out Intellectual Rockstar, but also check out Cubicle Chat.
Yep.
One big announcement about Cubicle Chat. It's pretty much part of the Stoveleg Media family now. And if people are going, well, what the heck is a Stoveleg Media? It's the company that it's like a network of podcasts, but a couple of the podcasts that are on Stoveleg Media are True Crime Cast and Bless Their Hearts. So it's only going to help my podcast and also Nerdcast Empire. That's another one to go check out. They do wrestling, metal, and anime. So anything that you're kind of nerdy about, there you go. And we know Dwaylon is like really the king of the nerds because he's the intellectual rock star. He's not just a walking talking wrestling encyclopedia. I did not know that Batman had like negative multiverses where he was a bad guy and he was actually shooting and killing people, and there was a bad guy called the Drowned. I was about to call him Drowning Pool, but I knew that wasn't right. But the Drowned, and I'm like listening, going, who came up with all this stuff? Because a warped mind had to come up with. Yeah.
I've got another one that's going to drop tomorrow. That it is it'll be called. It's the Dawnbreaker. It is combination of Batman and Green Lantern.
Wow. And by the way, since Batman is DC, obviously, my son actually pointed out something about there's a new Marvel movie that came out. I would like the Marvels, I guess.
Yes. Yeah.
And I haven't, and my son was telling me, he's like, it's not doing that good. I'm like, because I think people are burned out on Marvel. That's why.
Here's the thing too, the bar got set so high with, with especially by the time it got to Infinity War and Endgame, by the time Endgame ended, that bar was set so high. People expect so much for Marvel movies that they're not willing to give other Marvel movies a chance. Like
right.
A lot of people didn't like Ant-Man Quantum Mania. I loved it. I thought it was my favorite Ant-Man movie out of the three that they've done. I thought it was good. But when I went to see that movie, I was the only person in that theater, which was great because I didn't have to listen to people talking during the movie and everything, and I could stretch out. But it's like people just aren't giving these movies a chance because they're automatically expecting that high level. And it's like, y'all didn't expect this when Iron Man first came out or the first Captain America, even the first Avengers movie. The bar wasn't set that high because you weren't expecting much from these movies because superhero movies had, a bad stench to them because of a lot of failed ones. So people aren't giving these the time that they need. These characters still need time to grow too. They can't just come out and be like, oh, well, these super well-known characters. And it's like, there's other characters in the Marvel universe besides the ones that were showcased during Infinity War and Endgame.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the kind of conversations that you will hear on the Intellectual Rockstar.
Exactly.
So go check out tomorrow. Obviously, well, whenever you listen to this, if you haven't subscribed to Intellectual Rockstar, go do it. If you want to email this show, it's armchairbookingpodcast@gmail.com. If you want to email Dwaylon, Intellectual Rockstar at Gmail?
Intellectual, the Intellectual Rockstar Podcast at Gmail.
The Intellectual Rockstar Podcast. That then you throw the at on there. That's a lot of letters to put before the at. but you have that, and you can go check us out on Twitter at Booking Armchair. But you can check out Dwaylon at the Rockstar 73 on Twitter. Cubicle_chat on Twitter. And you can find us on any other social media outlets. Just go check out, just look for Armchair Booking. We're there. Audio platforms are always there. If you go on Apple, you give us a 5-star rating and a review, we will read it on air. We will acknowledge it because the rating, especially even if you don't give us a review, give us a rating. You can do that on any of the audio platforms that allows you to give ratings. Give us a rating. It only helps us, gets visibility to the show. So if you're on YouTube, like, share, subscribe, tell your friends. We've actually been hitting more subscribers here lately, which is good.
That's good.
So, but until we can actually speak again, Thursday, next Monday, I don't know. Next week is a wild schedule because of Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And we've already established earlier, just because we're not working a regular 9-to-5 job, we're staying busy. We're staying very busy.
Yeah.
So, but if you have any show ideas, because we do have some other shout outs to give, because our friend Kyle has been giving us some ideas. We just have to time them out right. And Kyle, actually, I think he knows what I'm talking about, but he always gives us some great ideas. So if anybody, if you give us some ideas and they fit in, sometimes it may not go right now. We're like, you know what? I like that idea. We're going to have that in our pocket to use on a future show, because right now something else is going on, or maybe that it would make more sense to have it, closer to a certain, certain events, whatever. But just give us show ideas, suggestions. We would never, ever just squash somebody's idea and go, well, that's stupid. No, there's no stupid ideas.
You're right.
We like them. We like all of them. Sometimes, like I said, it may not be it's not a no, it's a not right now.
Right.
So, there's very few things that we'll actually say a hard no to. And so, but until we can actually speak again, we just have to say good night and God bless.
God bless.